The Ethiopian government says that it's ready at any time and at any place to engage in peace talks under the auspices of the African Union. The rebel force, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, has also expressed a desire for peace negotiations, but mistrust between it and the government is surfacing yet again as it accuses the government of provoking its forces. The United Nations says that the conflict in the country's north that began in November 2020 has now caused over 9 million people in the region to require humanitarian assistance. Coletta Wanjohi is in Addis Ababa.
A peace committee tasked by the Ethiopian government to guide it towards a peaceful resolution to the conflict in the country's north has come up with what it calls a peace proposal.
Firstly, it proposes for peace talks to happen within the coming weeks towards an agreed ceasefire. Secondly, it proposes to undertake an in-depth political dialogue between the parties leading towards a settlement. And thirdly, it proposes for any other pending issues to be addressed through a national dialogue.
The Tigray People's Liberation Front, the rebel group that the government has been in conflict with for over a year and a half, has expressed mistrust for this announcement. It is blaming the government forces for what it calls provocation of its own forces. It also reiterates its position that the return of basic services to the Tigray region is a must before any talks. But Abiy Ahmed's government says talks must be held without preconditions.
The issue of restoration of services in particular comes up again and again as if there is one single on and off button or switch that is centrally located. This is a particularly dangerous and erroneous view of how service that is disrupted due to conflict and related damage within the region is administered. The government has made it clear on several occasions to partners as well as to the public that the security and administrative arrangements within the Tigray region need to be cleared and put in place to facilitate technical repair work on the ground in Tigray region to restore these saved services.
The UN says the humanitarian situation in the country's north is dire. In the Tigray region alone, where it estimates there are about 6 million people in need, humanitarian supply resumed in April this year after a humanitarian ceasefire was announced by the government in March. The UN says as of 1st August, more than 1.4 million metric tons of humanitarian supplies had arrived in the area. But it says more food and non-food items are needed as soon as possible. Coletta Wanjohi, SABC News,